The alien woman caught me staring. Her response shocked me. The trading hub of Korath Station was a whirlwind of motion, noise, and neon light. Ships of every shape and size drifted lazily in orbit, while countless beings of different species bustled through the docking bays and marketplaces. Ethan Vance had been to many stations before, but Korath always had a strange energy to it. It was neither purely chaotic nor orderly. It existed in a constant state of controlled turbulence. Traders shouted over each other, aliens of all colors haggled for goods, and somewhere high above, the faint hum of starliners moving in and out of the port created a rhythmic backdrop that seemed to pulse through the station's metal bones. Ethan was a trader of moderate renown, known for his sharp mind and steady hand. His human instincts had served him well in situations where more calculating species faltered. Today, he was here to exchange a batch of rare alloys for fuel and a few essential supplies for his ship, the Star Whisperer. He moved through the crowd with practiced ease, his eyes scanning for the fastest route and the least troublesome encounters. Humans were not always welcome in certain corners of the galaxy, but he had a reputation that granted him a degree of respect, or at least tolerance. As he stepped into one of the wider marketplaces, something caught his attention that made him pause mid-step. A woman, though not quite human, stood near a stall selling exotic starfruit. She moved with a kind of effortless grace, her silver hair catching the artificial lights of the market, creating a shimmering halo effect. Her skin was a soft violet hue, almost glowing against the dim lights, and her eyes were the kind that seemed to look past the surface of things, into the very essence of a person. Ethan's eyes widened without his conscious permission. He had never seen a being like this in his life. His curiosity, combined with his natural human tendency to fixate on the extraordinary, rooted him to the spot. He didn't notice that his stare had been longer than it should have been. The moment she realized it, she turned her head slightly, her gaze locking onto his with precision. Ethan felt a sudden, almost physical, pressure from her eyes, as if they were reaching inside him and examining every thought he had ever had. It was not threatening, exactly, but it was demanding. His heartbeat quickened. He was suddenly very aware of how exposed he felt, how ordinary he must have seemed in contrast to her elegance. Instead of expressing anger or annoyance, she tilted her head, a gesture almost imperceptibly amused. Her lips curved into the faintest hint of a smile, and Ethan felt himself both embarrassed and oddly flattered. He tried to look away, but the pull of her gaze was magnetic. At that moment, the world seemed to blur around them. The other traders, the neon lights, the hum of ships, all faded into a kind of peripheral haze. All that existed was the woman and the small, inexplicable connection that had sparked between them. Then the sudden chaos arrived. A group of alien smugglers had chosen this crowded marketplace for a violent display. Blasters fired indiscriminately, and screams filled the air. Stalls toppled over, exotic fruit splattered across the metal floor, and the smell of burning plasma filled Ethan's nostrils. His instincts kicked in. Without thinking about the danger to himself, he lunged toward a group of civilians who were cornered by the smugglers. He shoved them aside, creating a path for them to escape, and felt the sharp burn of a graze across his forearm from a stray energy bolt. The alien woman reacted almost instantly, moving with fluid precision. She dodged attacks with a dancer's grace, striking back with a series of controlled, efficient motions that left several attackers incapacitated. Ethan watched, mesmerized, as she seemed almost untouchable. Yet despite her evident superiority, she did not hesitate to move alongside the humans, protecting them as though their safety mattered to her personally. There was a strange nobility in the way she fought, a combination of skill and restraint that spoke of discipline and experience. Ethan found himself moving alongside her, instinctively covering the civilians, blocking attacks when he could and following her lead. Despite the chaos, a small thought flickered in his mind. He had never met anyone like her, and even in danger he couldn't stop noticing her. Her movements were purposeful, confident, and yet there was a softness in the way she ensured others were safe. He realized that in a galaxy filled with danger, beings like her were rare, beings who combined power with care. By the time the last of the smugglers had fled or been incapacitated, the marketplace was in ruins. Smoke rose from toppled stalls and the smell of burnt metal lingered in the air. Ethan, panting and bruised, glanced at the woman. She had turned to survey the aftermath, her expression calm, almost detached, but not uncaring. She met his gaze, and for the first time, Ethan noticed something deeper in her eyes. It was recognition, understanding, perhaps even curiosity. She seemed to measure him, not just for what he could do in the fight, but for what he was, the kind of being he represented. "You have courage," she said softly, her voice smooth and melodious, carrying a weight that seemed far older than her appearance. "Something rare among your kind." Her words startled him. He had faced danger countless times, but rarely had anyone, especially not an alien, acknowledged his instincts in such a profound way. Ethan's mind raced. What did she mean, exactly? Was it merely flattery, or did she truly recognize something in him that others did not? Before he could respond, she turned and began moving away, heading toward a quieter section of the station. Curiosity, stronger than caution, propelled him to follow. He didn't know why he did it. Perhaps the fascination with her, perhaps the instinct to survive, or perhaps both. The corridor they entered was quieter, lined with storage pods and low-tech maintenance equipment. It smelled of oil and ozone, a stark contrast to the bustling marketplace. She paused, looking back at him. "If you wish to follow, do so carefully," she said. "This part of the station is not safe for those unprepared." Ethan hesitated, considering the danger, but the pull was too strong. He nodded, trying to maintain a calm facade, though his chest tightened with anticipation. I can manage," he replied, keeping his tone steady even as adrenaline coursed through his veins. She didn't respond immediately. Instead, she walked ahead, her pace deliberate, as though she expected him to either keep up or fall behind. The silence was almost comfortable, punctuated only by the distant hum of machinery and the faint echoes of the marketplace behind them. As they moved, Ethan began to notice subtle details. The way she adjusted her posture, the slight flex of her fingers when they brushed past a control panel, the way her eyes scanned their surroundings with constant awareness. Every motion was precise, calculated, and efficient. Finally, she stopped at a concealed docking bay, a private space hidden from the casual observer. Her ship was small, sleek, and clearly designed for both speed and stealth. She turned to face him, and for the first time her eyes softened. "You have potential," she said simply. "I don't usually involve outsiders in what I do, but there is something different about you, something unpredictable and yet effective." Ethan felt a mix of pride and disbelief. He had always known humans were resourceful, but to hear it from an alien who moved with such mastery of her abilities was overwhelming. Before he could respond, a low alarm sounded within the docking bay. Her hand moved to a concealed panel and she gestured for him to step back. "They know I'm here," she said, her voice calm despite the rising tension. "And they will come for me. You have seen what I am capable of, but you should know this will be dangerous." Ethan swallowed hard. I'll help, whatever it takes," he said. The words left his mouth before fear could paralyze him. He didn't know why he was willing to take such a risk, but the answer seemed simple. In the brief time he had observed her, he had felt a connection that defied logic, a fascination that demanded action. The first wave of attackers arrived moments later, blasters cutting through the air, sparks flying as they hit the docking bay walls. Ethan, acting on instinct, grabbed a loose crate and used it as a shield. He wasn't trained like her, but he was adaptable, thinking fast, reacting faster. Each move he made, each decision, was driven by human intuition rather than calculated alien logic. She nodded once, almost imperceptibly, acknowledging his effectiveness. Together, they fought in a coordinated rhythm. She moved with lethal grace, while he created openings, distracted enemies, and improvised in ways that no alien might consider. The combination of her precision and his unpredictability proved deadly. The attackers, expecting either a weak human or an overpowered alien, found themselves caught in a situation they had not anticipated. When the last of them fled or fell, Ethan and the alien woman stood amidst the wreckage, breathing heavily. She studied him for a long moment, her expression inscrutable. Then she spoke, softer than before. "Perhaps humans are not as limited as I thought." Ethan, still catching his breath, gave a shaky smile. "Maybe we're not," he said, realizing that in that brief encounter, something fundamental had changed, not just in how she saw him, but in how he saw himself. For the first time in his life, Ethan understood that his ordinary human traits, curiosity, courage, and unpredictability, could matter in a galaxy that often undervalued his kind. And for reasons he did not yet understand, he was eager to follow her, to learn more, and to see where this unexpected encounter would take him next. After the attack in the docking bay, the alien woman led Ethan through a series of narrow corridors, the hum of Korath Station fading behind them. He struggled to keep pace with her effortless stride, his lungs burning and legs heavy, but his determination pushed him forward. Every so often, he stole glances at her, still captivated by her otherworldly presence. She moved with a fluidity he couldn't imitate, her violet skin shimmering subtly under the station lights, silver hair flowing in an almost weightless manner. There was a calm confidence in her every motion, and yet, in some way, she noticed everything around her. Nothing escaped her attention. Finally, they arrived at a secluded chamber tucked behind several maintenance access points. It wasn't large, but it was secure, illuminated by soft white lights and filled with consoles, hollow screens, and a single docking port for a small ship. She gestured for him to sit as she accessed a terminal, her fingers moving with lightning speed across controls. The air smelled faintly of ozone and metal. For a moment, Ethan simply watched her work, fascinated not just by her appearance, but by the clarity and precision of her movements. "My name is Lyra Talvine," she said without looking up. "I am part of a galactic peacekeeping force, tasked with monitoring criminal networks that threaten the stability of multiple star systems. That includes smuggling, illegal weapons, and biothreats." Her voice was calm and even, but there was an authority in it that made Ethan instinctively pay attention. I'm Ethan Vance," he replied, still catching his breath. "I'm just a trader. I don't usually get involved in battles between alien organizations." Lyra's gaze finally met his, and Ethan felt the weight of her eyes again. It was not the same piercing stare as before. It was more measured, curious, assessing. "I noticed your actions back there," she said. "You acted without hesitation to protect others. Most humans would have frozen or run. Few would have followed through as you did. That kind of courage, it is rare and valuable." Ethan shifted in his seat. He didn't know how to respond. Praise from an alien of her stature was unfamiliar and a little overwhelming. He had grown up hearing that humans were unpredictable and often reckless, but here was an example of an advanced species that acknowledged his instincts as a strength rather than a flaw. I just did what seemed right," he said. Lyra nodded once, almost imperceptibly. "That is enough for now, but courage alone will not be sufficient. The situation is far more dangerous than you realize. The people we are after, criminals trading in weapons of mass destruction, have reach, resources, and cunning that exceed most governments. They do not hesitate to eliminate anyone who stands in their way." Ethan's stomach tightened. He had faced danger before, but never on this scale. He glanced around the small chamber, trying to reconcile the calmness of Lyra with the chaos of the marketplace just an hour ago. "And you want me to help you stop them?" he asked, trying to keep his voice steady. Lyra turned back to the console, her fingers dancing across the controls as she displayed holographic images of various star systems, trade routes, and cargo shipments. "I do not ask for your help lightly," she said. "But you have shown qualities that even seasoned operatives lack: adaptability, quick thinking, courage, and most importantly, unpredictability. That is what makes you useful, not power, not technology. Your species' greatest strength is its capacity to act in ways no one can anticipate." Ethan leaned forward, intrigued despite his fear. "So, you're saying humans are valuable because we're unpredictable?" Lyra gave a faint smile. "Exactly. Predictability is a weakness in a galaxy ruled by calculation and discipline. Your ability to improvise, to react instinctively, makes you dangerous to those who rely on rigid logic." She paused, studying him for a long moment. "If you wish to survive and succeed, you must trust your instincts. Follow your intuition even when it seems reckless. That is your advantage." For the first time, Ethan felt a spark of confidence. He had always relied on instinct in his trade, negotiating with alien merchants and navigating dangerous space routes. It was what had kept him alive, and now he realized it might be exactly what was needed for the task ahead. "I think I understand," he said. "I'll do my best." Lyra's expression softened slightly. "Good, but understanding is not enough. You must be tested." She gestured to a nearby console. "I will put you through a series of exercises, not simulations, real challenges. I need to know how far your instincts can take you." Ethan felt a flicker of nervous excitement. "Exercises? Tests," she corrected. "And they will be demanding. Some will be physical, some mental, some will require both. Your performance will determine whether you can be trusted in the field. You will not fail." The first test was a matter of timing and observation. Lyra projected a holographic simulation of a starship under attack. Ethan had to guide a group of civilians to safety while avoiding simulated blasts, environmental hazards, and unpredictable alien attackers. At first, the holographic controls seemed overwhelming. Lights flashed, alarms blared, and Ethan's fingers stumbled over unfamiliar panels. But as he concentrated, he began to rely on his instincts. He adjusted the path of the civilians at the last moment, dodged incoming blasts, and created improvised barriers with limited resources. Lyra observed silently, her expression unreadable. When the simulation ended, she finally spoke. "You succeeded, but not perfectly. You acted too cautiously in some areas, too boldly in others. That unpredictability, it is a double-edged sword. In some situations, it will save lives. In others, it could get you killed." Ethan nodded, absorbing the lesson. "I'll be more aware next time." The next test involved negotiation with hostile aliens over a shipment of crucial supplies. Ethan had to talk his way past a group of smugglers without violence. The aliens were intimidating, large and armed, and their language was filled with nuances that humans often missed. Yet Ethan noticed subtle cues: the flick of an antenna, the tone of their clicks, the rhythm of their breathing. Using observation and improvisation, he conveyed confidence and reasoned arguments, offering alternative solutions that satisfied the smugglers' demands without conflict. Lyra raised an eyebrow in approval. "Impressive. Most would have either fled or attempted force. You understood their priorities, anticipated their reactions, and adapted. That is why you are here. You see patterns and act before others even recognize them." By the end of the day, Ethan had faced physical trials, tactical challenges, and moral dilemmas. Each time, he relied not on raw strength or advanced technology, but on human intuition and creativity. Lyra watched him closely, sometimes leaning back and observing, sometimes stepping in to increase the difficulty. At one point, she orchestrated a simulated ambush where Ethan had to defend her as well. His heart raced, adrenaline surged, and he improvised traps, feints, and diversions. Every move he made demonstrated a kind of ingenuity she rarely saw in her line of work. Finally, as they rested in the quiet chamber, Ethan slumped against a wall, exhausted but exhilarated. I, I never thought I could do all that, he admitted. I mean, I thought humans were just lucky sometimes, but maybe we're better than I realized. Lyra studied him for a long moment. Better is not the word I would use. Unique, valuable, dangerous if underestimated. That is what your species can be. You combine unpredictability with courage, empathy, and creativity. That combination is rare. She hesitated, then added almost softly, "You surprised me. I did not expect a human to perform this well." Ethan felt a flush of pride, but also something more complex connection. This was more than recognition of skill. Lyra's attention had weight, meaning. He remembered the first moment he had caught himself staring at her in the marketplace and how she had caught him. At that time, it had been curiosity, amusement. Now, it felt like understanding. A sudden alert from her console interrupted the moment. Lyra's expression hardened. "We have a lead on the smuggling network. A ship will arrive in the next sector carrying illicit cargo. If we intercept it, we might gain critical intelligence." Ethan stood quickly. "Then let's go, I'm ready," Lyra nodded, impressed. "Good, but remember, this will not be easy. You must trust yourself and act decisively. Hesitation could cost lives." As they approached her sleek ship, Ethan's nerves hummed with anticipation. He could feel the weight of the galaxy's dangers pressing in, yet a strange excitement coursed through him. He was no longer just a trader. He had been tested, and he had survived. He had been recognized by a species far more advanced than his own, and that recognition carried responsibility. The ship's engines hummed to life, and as they lifted from Korath Station, Ethan looked out at the expanse of space stretching endlessly before them. The stars seemed closer, brighter, more alive than ever before. He glanced at Lyra, seated calmly at the controls, and felt a flicker of awe. Here was a being who could conquer entire fleets with her skills, and she had chosen to involve him, a human, in her mission. He realized, as the station shrank behind them, that this journey would change him forever. His instincts, courage, and humanity were no longer just personal traits. They were tools, weapons, and strengths in a galaxy that often overlooked the unassuming potential of humans. Lyra spoke again, her voice steady and commanding. "Prepare yourself. The next challenge will test more than your skill. It will test your judgment, your creativity, and your ability to act under pressure. Many have failed where you now stand. Few have succeeded. And those who do change the course of events far beyond what they imagined." Ethan met her gaze and nodded. He felt no fear, not complete fear. There was nervousness, certainly, but also determination. He had been chosen, or perhaps discovered, for a reason. He would rise to the challenge because he knew humans could do what others could not. Humans could surprise. Humans could endure. And sometimes, humans could change the course of entire worlds with nothing but courage and instinct. The stars outside streaked past as their ship jumped into faster-than-light travel. For the first time in his life, Ethan felt truly part of the galaxy, not just as a visitor, a trader, or a bystander, but as a participant, an agent capable of making a difference. And beside him, Lyra Talvin, calm, powerful, and utterly alien, was the first to acknowledge it. As the hum of the engines filled the cabin, Ethan allowed himself a small smile. He had no idea what awaited them, but one thing was certain: the adventure had only just begun. And for the first time, he felt a strange thrill at the thought of facing the unknown alongside an ally he barely understood, yet already trusted. The ship's hum was steady, a constant rhythm that seemed to echo Ethan's own heartbeat. Outside, the stars streaked past as they navigated through hyperspace, each light a distant sun, each system a new possibility. He watched in quiet awe as Lyra piloted with flawless precision, her hands moving almost instinctively over the controls. Every movement she made was calculated, yet there was a fluidity to it, a rhythm that suggested not just skill, but intuition honed over years of experience. Ethan had never seen anyone, human or alien, handle a ship like this. "Where are we headed?" he asked finally, his voice breaking the comfortable silence. Lyra's eyes remained fixed on the holographic display. "To an abandoned station in the Drexel sector," she said. "It is a safe place, secure enough for us to analyze the information we intercepted from the smugglers' transport. The intelligence there will reveal the scale of their operation, but it will not be easy. The sector is lightly patrolled, but the smugglers may have allies lying in wait." Ethan nodded, feeling a mixture of excitement and apprehension. He had survived a chaotic marketplace attack, navigated through the trials Lyra had set for him, and now he was about to step further into a dangerous game he barely understood. And yet, he felt a spark of confidence he had never known before. Humans were adaptable, unpredictable, and resilient, traits that even advanced alien species underestimated. He would prove it again and again if needed. Hours passed in relative silence, broken only by the occasional adjustment of the ship's course or the soft hum of the engines. Ethan found himself stealing glances at Lyra, curiosity tugging at him despite the tension. Her calm demeanor, her unshakable focus, and the subtle way she observed everything around her drew him in. He wondered what her life had been like before he met her. How many battles had she fought? How many decisions had she made that changed the fates of others? And why had she chosen to involve him, a simple human trader, in this intricate web of interstellar intrigue? Finally, the abandoned station came into view, its metal hull battered but still intact, drifting silently in the void. Ethan felt a shiver run down his spine. It was eerily quiet, the kind of silence that seemed to press in from all sides, broken only by the faint hum of his own ship as it maneuvered toward a docking port. Lyra brought the ship to a smooth landing. "We stay alert," she said, voice low. "This station may appear abandoned, but that does not mean it is empty. The smugglers' reach is extensive. We must assume that we are being watched." Ethan nodded, gripping the armrest of his seat. "Understood, I'm ready." They disembarked, stepping into the dimly lit corridors of the station. The air was stale, carrying the faint scent of rust and ozone. Panels flickered intermittently, casting long shadows across the walls. Ethan's senses were heightened, every creak and hum making him tense. He had been in dangerous situations before, but this was different. The station was silent, but it felt alive, as if it were waiting, observing. Lyra led the way with unwavering confidence, her hand occasionally brushing a control panel or adjusting a sensor. Ethan followed closely, relying on her expertise while keeping his instincts sharp. He noticed small details she might have overlooked, the slight vibrations in the floor, a panel slightly ajar, the faint glow of lights behind a sealed door. It was subtle, but these observations gave him a sense of the station's layout, a mental map forming in his mind. They reached the central hub, a large room filled with dormant machinery and broken consoles. Lyra activated a terminal, and a holographic map of the station flickered to life. Lines of data, routes, and storage compartments appeared, revealing what had been hidden for decades. "Here," she said, pointing to a section of the map. "This is where the smugglers have been storing critical information about their operations. If we can access it, we will understand the scale of their network." Ethan leaned closer, studying the display. It was complex, a web of trade routes, hidden bases, and encrypted messages. "How do we get it?" he asked. Lyra's fingers danced across the controls, bypassing security protocols with ease. "With skill and patience," she said, "and a little human ingenuity." Ethan watched as she worked, then noticed a small console off to the side, its panel slightly loose. Without thinking, he approached it, pressing a sequence of buttons he didn't even know he knew. The panel responded, revealing an alternate route into the data network. Lyra's head tilted slightly, an almost imperceptible smile on her face. "Exactly," she said. "You see possibilities that others overlook. That is why you are here. Not because of strength, not because of advanced technology, but because of your perspective." Working together, they accessed the smuggler's data. Files streamed onto the terminal, revealing shipments of dangerous materials, hidden alliances, and plans that could destabilize entire star systems. Ethan's eyes widened as he scrolled through the information. The scale of the operation was staggering, but he felt a strange sense of satisfaction. They had done it. They had uncovered something critical. Their success, however, was short-lived. A low hum filled the room, and Ethan realized the station's sensors had detected their presence. Lights flickered, and a series of security drones activated, their mechanical eyes glowing red. Ethan felt a surge of adrenaline. This was the real test. No simulations, no practice exercises, only instinct and quick thinking. Lyra moved with precision, disabling drones with minimal effort, but Ethan noticed more were arriving than she could handle alone. He acted instinctively, using debris and tools around him to create obstacles, blocking the drones' paths. He ducked, rolled, and improvised weapons from station equipment. Each move was guided by instinct, by his understanding of angles, speed, and timing. Lyra glanced at him approvingly. "Good," she said. "Keep moving, predict, adapt, and react." Ethan felt a rush of confidence. He had faced danger before, but this was different. Here his human qualities, improvisation, adaptability, and courage, were not just useful, they were essential. The drones were precise, calculating, but they could not predict human unpredictability. He led them through narrow corridors, drawing their attention away from Lyra as she accessed more data terminals. Finally, after what felt like hours compressed into minutes, they managed to disable the last of the active drones. The room fell silent again, save for the faint hum of the station and the rapid beating of Ethan's heart. Lyra looked at him, her expression unreadable but tinged with respect. "You handled yourself well," she said. "Most would have been overwhelmed. You adapt." Ethan wiped sweat from his brow, feeling a mix of exhaustion and exhilaration. "I just did what I thought was right," he said, his voice shaky. Lyra's eyes softened slightly. "That is enough." Often it is not the strongest or the most skilled who survive, but those who trust their instincts and adapt. That is your strength, Ethan. Do not forget it. As they reviewed the data, Ethan realized the implications of what they had discovered. The smugglers' network was vast, reaching multiple systems and involving countless lives. If left unchecked, their actions could spark conflicts, endanger millions, and destabilize entire governments. And yet, here he was, a human, playing a critical role in uncovering it. Lyra studied him as he absorbed the information. "You are beginning to understand," she said. "Humans have qualities that cannot be measured by technology or raw strength. Courage, adaptability, creativity, empathy. These traits can turn the tide of events in ways the galaxy does not anticipate. That is why you are here. That is why you are valuable." Ethan felt a swell of pride mixed with humility. He had never thought of himself as extraordinary. He had survived, yes, and he had relied on instinct, but to hear someone like Lyra recognize his worth was profoundly affecting. He realized that the galaxy was not just about power or dominance. It was about action, decision, and the courage to act when circumstances demanded it. Their moment of reflection was interrupted by a sudden alert. Another transport, larger and heavily armed, had entered the sector. Lyra's eyes narrowed. "The smugglers are moving their assets. We have a chance to intercept them, but it will be dangerous. Are you ready?" Ethan straightened, determination replacing fatigue. "I am." "Whatever it takes." Lyra nodded approvingly. Good. Remember, you will be tested again. Not just your skill, but your judgment, your ability to think under pressure. Trust yourself, trust your instincts, and remember what makes you human. That is your edge. As they prepared the ship for departure, Ethan felt a renewed sense of purpose. The station faded behind them, a silent witness to their efforts. Ahead lay uncertainty, danger, and the unknown, but also opportunity. He was no longer just a trader. He was part of something larger, a participant in a battle that required more than technology or brute force. It required insight, courage, and the unmeasurable qualities of humanity. Lyra's hand rested lightly on the controls, her expression calm yet focused. Ethan studied her, realizing that she trusted him in ways few could. That trust was both a challenge and a responsibility. He would rise to it because humans could endure, adapt, and prevail, and he would prove that to her and to the galaxy. The stars outside their viewport stretched endlessly, streaks of light marking the path forward. Ethan felt a thrill of anticipation and a steady resolve. The journey was far from over. There were challenges ahead, tests that would push him to the limits of his ability and courage. But for the first time, he felt truly ready. Humans could surprise, humans could endure, and humans could change the course of events in ways even the most advanced species might never expect. And beside him, Lyra Talvin, calm, precise, and utterly formidable, prepared to face whatever came next, knowing that she had chosen wisely in bringing a human into her mission. The ship emerged from hyperspace with a subtle jolt, the Drexel sector stretching endlessly before them. Ethan stared through the viewport at a small asteroid belt, where the smuggler's base was reportedly hidden. Jagged rocks drifted lazily, illuminated by distant starlight, and in the midst of them, barely visible, was the base, a sprawling complex of metal and shadows, fortified and seemingly impenetrable. Ethan felt a chill of anticipation. This was far beyond any situation he had faced before. Lyra's hands moved over the controls with precision. The base is heavily guarded. We cannot approach directly. We will need to use stealth, misdirection, and quick thinking. Are you prepared? Ethan nodded, the adrenaline in his veins sharpening his focus. I'm ready. Good. Pay attention and act quickly. Hesitation will cost lives. They navigated through the asteroid field with careful precision, dodging debris and using shadows to mask their presence. Ethan marveled at Lyra's skill. Every movement was smooth, every adjustment calculated. He could barely keep up mentally, tracking multiple variables at once: the positions of asteroids, patrol drones, security beams, and escape routes. Humans were often underestimated because they were unpredictable, and here, that unpredictability was about to become an advantage. As they approached the base, Lyra deactivated their ship's external lights and reduced their energy signature, effectively blending them into the darkness. "We will board through an auxiliary docking bay," she whispered. "It is lightly monitored but not unguarded. Follow my lead and remain aware at all times." The docking maneuver was delicate, requiring both skill and nerve. Ethan held his breath as the ship glided silently toward the auxiliary bay, brushing past massive asteroid formations and hidden sensors. When they finally docked, Lyra moved first, her footsteps silent, her posture alert. Ethan followed, relying on his instincts to navigate the dimly lit corridors. The base was a labyrinth of metallic hallways, storage rooms, and security checkpoints. Occasionally, they passed patrolling guards, alien and human alike, their attention drawn elsewhere. Ethan marveled at the contrast between his own improvisation and Lyra's disciplined precision. She moved like a shadow, perfectly controlled, while he relied on instinct, improvising to avoid detection or create diversions. Together, they were a formidable combination. Their objective was clear: retrieve critical intelligence about the smugglers' operations. Lyra guided Ethan to a heavily secured control room, the air tense with anticipation. The door was protected by a biometric lock, energy sensors, and multiple fail-safes. Ethan's mind raced. This was no simulation. Failure could trigger alarms, endanger lives, or worse. Lyra glanced at him. "You will need to improvise here. The system is designed to counter predictable approaches." Ethan studied the controls, noticing patterns in the sequences, subtle inconsistencies in the holographic interface, and gaps in the security sensors' coverage. He adjusted switches, tapped sequences in unconventional order, and applied logic tempered by instinct. Slowly, methodically, the locks disengaged. Lyra's eyes widened slightly, a rare display of surprise. "Good, very good," she whispered. "That was unexpected and effective. It would have taken an entire team of my species to achieve that." Inside the control room, rows of consoles displayed the smugglers' trade routes, weapon shipments, and communications. Ethan's fingers flew over the controls as he copied files, decrypted messages, and mapped out the organization's network. Every new piece of information revealed the enormity of the smugglers' influence. This was not a minor operation. It was a network with tendrils reaching across multiple systems, capable of destabilizing governments and igniting conflicts. While Ethan worked, Lyra kept watch, her eyes scanning every corridor, every camera feed. She occasionally nudged Ethan aside to access a control panel or disable a security protocol. Together, they moved seamlessly, a blend of human intuition and alien precision. Suddenly, an alarm blared. Ethan froze for a split second, then instinctively hit a nearby control, rerouting the system and temporarily silencing the alert. Lyra's eyes flicked to him, impressed. "Quick thinking. That may have saved us precious minutes." The alarm was only temporary. The smugglers would soon discover the breach. Lyra made a decision. "We need to leave now. Grab as much as you can carry and follow me. No hesitation." They moved swiftly, retracing their path through the corridors, but the base was now in alert mode. Drones activated, security doors closed, and armed guards converged on their location. Ethan felt a surge of adrenaline. This was the true test, not simulations, not exercises, but life-or-death improvisation under pressure. Lyra moved like a shadow, taking down guards with precision strikes, disabling drones and guiding Ethan through alternate paths. Ethan improvised traps using loose debris, creating diversions and obstacles to slow the pursuit. Each move relied on instinct and observation, exploiting the smugglers' expectation that humans were weak and predictable. At one point, they reached a cross-section where two armed guards blocked the path. Ethan grabbed a loose metal rod, using it to trigger a hanging panel that fell behind the guards, creating a temporary barrier. Lyra seized the opportunity, knocking the guards unconscious with swift, controlled strikes. Ethan marveled at her efficiency, feeling both awe and growing respect. As they neared the docking bay, a group of heavily armed smugglers appeared, their weapons trained on them. Ethan's mind raced. There was no time for hesitation. He scanned the environment, noticed a maintenance hatch above them, and shouted to Lyra, "Cover me. I can make a distraction." Lyra didn't hesitate. She moved to confront the group directly, her movements precise, calculated, yet fierce. Ethan sprinted toward the hatch, kicking debris to create noise and confusion. The smugglers fired, but their aim faltered in the chaos. Using every ounce of agility he had, Ethan climbed the hatch, finding a narrow conduit that allowed them to bypass the main corridor entirely. They emerged near their ship, both breathing heavily, covered in dust and sweat, but alive. Ethan glanced at Lyra, who gave a small nod of approval. "You handled yourself well," she said. "Most humans would have panicked. You adapted. That is why you are here." Ethan felt a surge of pride mixed with relief. We made it," he said, though the words hardly seemed adequate. Lyra accessed the ship's controls, initiating launch sequence. We did, but our work is not finished. We now have intelligence that can expose the entire smuggling network. That information must reach the Interstellar Council. If it falls into the wrong hands, the consequences could be catastrophic. As the ship lifted from the asteroid belt, Ethan finally allowed himself to absorb the magnitude of their achievement. He, a human trader, had helped uncover a threat that spanned multiple star systems. He had faced danger, relied on instinct, and survived against foes who underestimated him at every turn. Lyra studied him as they traveled. "Humans are often overlooked," she said. "Your species is unpredictable, resourceful, and capable of acting in ways others cannot anticipate. That unpredictability, coupled with courage, is why you have survived and succeeded today. That is why you are valuable." Ethan nodded, still catching his breath. He realized that this partnership had changed him. Humans were not merely observers in the galaxy. They were actors capable of shaping events, of influencing outcomes in ways that even advanced species did not expect. And in this moment beside Lyra, he felt the truth of that more acutely than ever. The journey to deliver the intelligence would be dangerous. Smugglers, allies, and rival factions would be on the move, but Ethan felt ready. He had learned through instinct and trial that humans could endure, adapt, and prevail. And now, with Lyra's guidance and trust, he could do even more. As the stars streaked past in hyperspace, Ethan reflected on the events of the past days. From the moment he had first noticed Lyra in the marketplace, to surviving the chaos of the docking bay, to navigating tests and infiltrating the smuggler's base, every step had revealed a truth he could no longer ignore. Humans were underestimated, but that underestimation could be turned into power. Courage, ingenuity, and the ability to act without predictability were weapons in their own right. Lyra spoke again, her voice calm but commanding. "We will deliver this intelligence. But be aware, Ethan, the real challenge begins when we face those who will attempt to stop us. The smugglers will not surrender lightly. You must remain vigilant, adaptable, and decisive. Trust your instincts. They will guide you where planning alone cannot." Ethan felt a thrill of anticipation. The stakes were higher than ever, yet he was no longer just a bystander. He was part of a team, part of a mission that could shape the galaxy. Humans, unpredictable and courageous, had a role to play, and he intended to fulfill it. As the ship accelerated through hyperspace, leaving the asteroid belt and the smuggler's base behind, Ethan glanced at Lyra. She was calm, precise, and utterly focused, yet he sensed a quiet respect in her eyes, a recognition of his value, not just as a human, but as an ally. That recognition strengthened his resolve. They were heading into dangerous territory, but Ethan was ready. Humans could endure, adapt, and prevail. And now, for the first time, he truly understood that sometimes humans could change the course of events in ways that even the most advanced species could not predict. The stars outside streaked past as their ship raced toward the unknown, carrying intelligence that could prevent war, uncover hidden threats, and save countless lives. Ethan felt a deep sense of purpose, a connection to something larger than himself. And beside him, Lyra Talvin prepared for whatever challenges lay ahead, knowing that together, they had the skills, courage, and ingenuity to face anything the galaxy could throw at them. The ship sped through hyperspace, the stars streaking into long lines of light as Ethan gripped the edge of his seat. His muscles were tense, but his mind was sharper than it had ever been. The intelligence they had gathered from the smuggler's base was now securely stored in the ship's encrypted core, ready to be delivered to the Interstellar Council. Lives depended on it, and Ethan felt the weight of that responsibility keenly. Lyra sat calmly at the controls, her violet eyes focused on the navigation displays. Every now and then, she glanced at Ethan, as if measuring his readiness. He could sense her confidence in him, But he also knew that confidence was tempered with caution. The smugglers would not take this lightly, and anyone who dared to interfere could be ruthless and resourceful. "The Council's outpost is ahead," Lyra said, her voice even, yet carrying an undertone of urgency. "We have a narrow window to deliver this intelligence. Delay could allow the smugglers to intercept us or destroy evidence." Ethan nodded. He had learned to trust her judgment, and he also knew that instinct would guide him in the moments when careful calculation was not enough. Humans were unpredictable, and that unpredictability was an asset. As they approached the Council's outpost, a sudden alarm flashed across the ship's console. "Incoming hostiles," Lyra said. "Smugglers' ships, they've traced us." Ethan's heart pounded, but fear was replaced by focus. "What do we do?" Lyra's expression hardened. "We fight. Or we outmaneuver them. But hesitation is not an option. Trust yourself. Trust your instincts." The first wave of ships appeared, sleek and aggressive, weapons primed. Lyra piloted with precision, weaving between debris and energy fields, dodging laser fire while returning calculated strikes. Ethan assisted, coordinating defensive systems, deploying decoys, and improvising tactics that even Lyra admitted were clever. Every move relied on his ability to anticipate, react, and adapt faster than the enemy expected. "Your instincts are sharp," Lyra said briefly, her voice calm despite the chaos. "You see patterns in ways others cannot. Use that. Lead me through this." Ethan adjusted the ship's shields, rerouted power to engines, and guided their maneuvers. His mind moved faster than ever, calculating angles, predicting enemy actions, and improvising solutions. At one point, a hostile ship locked onto them, and Ethan quickly manipulated the asteroid field to create an unexpected barrier, causing the enemy vessel to collide with a floating rock. Lyra's eyes widened in admiration. "You saved us," she said. "That was brilliant." Ethan felt a surge of pride, but he had no time to celebrate. More ships appeared, more obstacles arose, and the chase became relentless. Yet with each encounter, he grew more confident. Humans could endure, adapt, and act unpredictably. That combination was proving invaluable. Finally, after a tense sequence of evasive maneuvers, decoys, and precise strikes, the last of the smugglers' ships was disabled or forced to retreat. The space around them was eerily quiet, the aftermath of battle marked only by drifting debris and fading energy trails. Ethan leaned back, breathing heavily, yet exhilaration coursed through him. He had survived again, not through brute force but through instinct, observation, and quick thinking. Lyra guided the ship to the Council's outpost, docking smoothly. They were met by a team of Council officials, their expressions a mix of relief and awe. The intelligence they carried was critical. It detailed the smugglers' entire operation, exposing weapon shipments, hidden alliances, and the identities of those who had remained anonymous in galactic politics. As they delivered the data, Council members whispered among themselves, clearly impressed by the daring and precision of the operation. One senior official stepped forward, eyes fixed on Ethan. "This intelligence, it is unprecedented. And you human played a key role in securing it. How did you manage to succeed where trained operatives often fail?" Ethan shrugged, a humble smile on his face. "I just reacted, trusted my instincts, and adapted as I went. Humans were good at thinking on our feet." Lyra stood beside him, her expression calm but authoritative. "He is modest," she said, "but it is exactly that unpredictability and adaptability that allowed us to succeed. Humans are often underestimated. That underestimation can become a strategic advantage." Ethan's instincts, courage, and creativity made all the difference. The Council members' eyes widened slightly. "So, humans can indeed be key players in galactic security," Lyra nodded. "Yes, especially those who act decisively and trust themselves in moments of uncertainty." Ethan felt a sense of pride, yet he also realized that this was only the beginning. Humans had potential that was often overlooked, but with courage, ingenuity, and instinct, they could influence events on a scale previously thought impossible. He had experienced it firsthand, and now the galaxy had witnessed it. As the council began analyzing the intelligence, Ethan and Lyra retreated to a quiet observation deck overlooking a bustling starfield. The lights of distant ships moved like constellations in motion, each representing a life, a mission, or a challenge yet to come. "You did well," Lyra said, her tone softening slightly. "Better than I expected. You adapted, improvised, and acted decisively." "That combination is rare." Ethan looked at her, still processing the events. "I couldn't have done it without your guidance. You taught me to trust myself." Lyra's violet eyes met his, and for a moment the tension of the past days seemed to lift. "Yes. And you did not disappoint. Humans have qualities that even the most advanced species often overlook. Courage, creativity, and instinct. That is your strength. Never forget it." Ethan felt a deep sense of connection. He realized that this mission, this partnership, had changed him. He was no longer just a trader, a bystander in galactic events. He was a participant, capable of influencing outcomes, capable of surviving and thriving in situations that required more than technology or brute strength. "Do you think humans really can make a difference?" he asked quietly. Lyra studied him, a small smile playing on her lips. "I know they can. I have seen it with my own eyes, and you, Ethan, are living proof." The moment was interrupted by a council official requesting their presence. The delivery of intelligence had immediate consequences. The smugglers' network was being dismantled, key leaders apprehended, and hidden weapons caches secured. The galaxy had been spared potential conflicts, thanks in no small part to a human's courage and adaptability. As they moved to the council chamber, Ethan felt the weight of the responsibility he had carried. Every decision, every instinctual choice had mattered. He had faced danger, uncertainty, and the unknown, and he had prevailed. Humans were unpredictable, yes, but that unpredictability, combined with courage and ingenuity, had become their greatest weapon. The council formally recognized Ethan and Lyra for their bravery and contribution. Holographic displays showed intercepted shipments, captured smugglers, and dismantled operations. Ethan listened as officials praised their efforts, but he remained grounded, understanding that this was not about glory. It was about action, decision, and the courage to act when circumstances demanded it. After the ceremony, Lyra and Ethan returned to the observation deck. The stars stretched endlessly before them, a reminder of the vast possibilities of the galaxy. Ethan felt a sense of fulfillment but also anticipation. The galaxy was full of challenges, threats, and opportunities, and humans had a role to play in shaping its future. "You've changed my perception of humans," Lyra said quietly. "I expected fear, hesitation, or recklessness. Instead, I found courage, adaptability, and insight. That is why you succeeded. That is why I trusted you." Ethan smiled, feeling a profound sense of accomplishment. "I never thought I'd make such a difference. But I guess humans have potential that even advanced species often underestimate." Lyra nodded. "Yes, and you, Ethan, have proven it." As they watched the stars together, Ethan reflected on the journey, the marketplace attack, the trials, the infiltration of the smuggler's base, and the perilous delivery of intelligence. Each moment had tested him, pushed him to his limits, and revealed the hidden strength of humans. Courage, intuition, adaptability. These were traits that no technology could replace, and they had turned the tide of events. The galaxy was vast, full of challenges and unknowns, but Ethan felt ready. Humans could endure, adapt, and prevail. And sometimes, humans could change the course of entire systems with nothing but instinct, courage, and determination. Lyra's presence beside him was a constant reminder that trust, skill, and partnership could amplify those human qualities even further. Together, they had accomplished the impossible. Together, they had ensured the safety of countless lives and disrupted a network that threatened peace across multiple star systems. Ethan realized in that quiet moment that humans were not insignificant, not powerless. Their unpredictability, creativity, and courage were assets the galaxy had long underestimated. And now, he had first-hand proof that even a single human could make a difference on a scale few could imagine. As the observation deck's lights reflected off the viewport, Ethan and Lyra remained silent, letting the enormity of their achievement settle over them. The stars beyond were not just distant suns. They were possibilities, challenges, and opportunities waiting for those brave enough to act. And humans, unpredictable and courageous, had the power to shape those possibilities. For the first time in his life, Ethan felt truly part of the galaxy, not as a mere visitor, but as an agent capable of making a real difference. And beside him, Lyra Talvin, calm, powerful, and perceptive, acknowledged that the galaxy would never again underestimate humans, not when one had already proven that courage, adaptability, and instinct could overcome even the most formidable threats. The journey had been perilous, the challenges immense, but Ethan knew one thing with certainty: humans could endure, adapt, and triumph, and the galaxy would remember it. As the stars streaked past their ship on the journey home, Ethan allowed himself a rare smile. He had survived, succeeded, and proven that humans, in their unpredictable brilliance, could truly change the course of the galaxy.